Hey, if you needed more motivation to have the best DC summer ever, this is it. District Bridges' Summer Bucket List runs June 15th to August 15th across DC. Here's how it works. Earn points and climb District Bridges' leaderboard by supporting local businesses, attending cool events, and crossing things off your summer bucket list. Top players can earn up to $250 in local business gift cards just by visiting pools, exploring museums, and sipping frozen cocktails. It's the ultimate DC staycation. Show some love for the city we call home. Join the Summer Bucket List and celebrate what makes DC truly special. Sign up now and track your progress at districtbridges.org/DC Summer Bucket List.
Today on CityCast DC, is there anything more perfect than a breakfast sandwich? In a quest to find the best one in DC, Washington Post food reporter Tim Carman asked the internet for its best recs, and the replies came pouring in. Within days, he had a list of more than 60 to try. After some seriously tasty fieldwork, he's narrowed it down to the top 10 breakfast sandwiches in DC. It's Tuesday, June 3rd. I'm Bridget Todd, and today we're diving into Tim's delicious quest to find the best breakfast sandwich in the city. Tim, you were speaking to a fellow breakfast sandwich enthusiast, so I'm very excited.
Well, I'm excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
So how did you set out to explore DC's best breakfast sandwich?
It's sort of a process. We try to do these big roundups at least once a year. We sit around a table and talk about what things people are most interested in right now. And we went through a lot of different options, and we brought in some of members of our audience team. And I think we decided, given that the breakfast sandwich category has sort of exploded in the last few years, that people really need a sort of catalog of what's the best out there right now.
What I love is that there was an actual methodology behind this. Like, how many did you try and how many are there?
So I really appreciate that you use the word methodology.
It's a science.
I don't know if scientists would agree that there was any method behind the madness, but I did have a running list, and that kept growing and growing as the weeks went on. By the time deadline finally approached, I had tried more than 90 sandwiches. Many of these were recommended by readers, by chefs, by friends, colleagues. I was a one-person reviewing team, so I spent literally months getting in my car, driving all around the area, and just trying one sandwich after another, cataloging my experience on a spreadsheet, and trying to figure out what criteria I would use for what were my favorites. I mean, ultimately, it's sort of a very arbitrary what amused me and what pleased me the most. But I also ended up focusing on ones that I felt were channeling certain identities that make up sort of our country and our immigrant culture, and that were also basically pretty simple in that they were a number of dishes or a limited number of ingredients, and all of them included an egg in some way.
Wait, so are you like completely over breakfast sandwiches now? You've had 90. Do you ever want to have one again, or are you still into them?
You know, I just had one this morning. I'll even call them out. Call your mother.
Oh, I've had theirs. It's good.
Yeah, the no meat Sun City. It's, part of it is because it's very close to the paper, but it's just a good sandwich too.
Okay, so out of the 90 breakfast sandwiches that you tried, which one was the absolute best and why?
So it was a tough call, but ultimately I went with the Za'atar egg croissant over at Yellow Cafe. Now, there are two locations, one's in Georgetown and one's in Union Market, but it's this really unusual sandwich in that it sort of combines a croissant, which I think is not unusual in breakfast sandwich world, but the chef, Michael Rafidi, covers this croissant with za'atar, which is this sort of Middle Eastern, Palestinian spice blend. So you can't even recognize that there is a croissant underneath there. It has this carpet of green surrounding the croissant. But then he tucks in like some smoked, what is it? It's like a smoked piquillo pepper and pickled Fresno peppers and a sunny side up egg. And it's this combination of like buttery, zesty, rich, crunchy deliciousness. And it's so unusual and so unique that I would venture that anyone who hasn't had it, they'll never find anything else like it.
You are making me very hungry, my friend. I have to try this sandwich. I haven't had it.
It's worth your time. Even if you have to go out of your way, which I'm not sure people do for breakfast sandwiches. I think it's often what's near you. But yeah, even if you have to drive a few miles and try to withstand the terrible parking situation in both Georgetown and Union Market, it's worth it.
One of Shakespeare's classics is now playing at the Folger Theater in a production you do not want to miss. The Folger's production of Twelfth Night, Shakespeare's great comedy about loss, love, and identity, is given a modern-day twist in this production, set in an underground club in a faltering empire, and it's full of joyful excess and lavish costumes. I'm telling you, you are going to leave this play wheezing from all the laughs and gasps. The Washington Post called it shamelessly entertaining, vibrant, and big-hearted. Y'all know I love going to plays, and DC's theater scene is absolutely on fire right now. Performances are on now and run through June 22nd, but tickets are going fast. So get yours today at folger.edu/12thnight. That's folger.edu/12thnight.
If you are a CityCast superfan, you've definitely heard us singing the praises of our longtime supporter, Paulson & Nace. So there's big news. Paulson & Nace is now Nace Law Group. Same great team, just with a new name. When you are hurt by the negligence of others, you want a lawyer that will actually fight for you, not one that will settle for the bare minimum. Nace's compassionate lawyers fight to bring cases to juries, so you can get everything you deserve. If you have been hurt or lost a loved one because of someone else's mistake or negligence, call Nace Law Group for a no-obligation consultation. Visit www.washingtondcinjurylawyers.com or call 202-463-1999.
In your opinion, what makes a good breakfast sandwich?
So that's a good question. I mean, it's not just creativity. I think that's kind of taken for granted, but I think there is sort of a simplicity to it. Just a few ingredients, but there's a lot of thought and technique put into each of them. Like, say, for example, if you have a type of egg scramble or omelet on a sandwich, there is a very difficult technique for preparing an omelet. And a couple of chefs use this sort of Jacques Pepin style omelet, which it's a very difficult technique to master. But once you do, you get this incredibly fluffy, rich omelet that you won't be able to recreate this kind of omelet at home. And then when you tuck it between, some nice buttery brioche bread or a croissant or a biscuit and pile in other ingredients, you're getting something that's so simple and so beautifully decadent that it's hard to resist it.
I'm a sucker for the brioche bread, like a nice soft bread. That's what makes a good breakfast sandwich for me.
Of course, it's that sort of buttery richness to go with your egg and whatever else is tucked in. Who doesn't want a brioche bun or bread for breakfast? Although I noticed like Asian milk breads have become more popular, which is also just a very rich and enriched bread, which makes for a great breakfast sandwich.
Do you think a breakfast sandwich has to have anything specific on it? Like, does it have to specifically have an egg involved?
Well, yeah, because, even though I think breakfast sandwiches are starting to erase the line between a lunch sandwich and a breakfast sandwich, I think it's the egg that, makes the difference. It's like that's the thing that differentiates a sandwich from a breakfast sandwich. Now, maybe you would argue with me, but there are some breakfast sandwiches that, like, if you took the egg away, it would just be a sandwich. But it's the egg that defines it.
How do you even decide like what makes something a breakfast sandwich? One of the sandwiches on your list, number 9, you kind of compare it to a Philly cheesesteak, which I wouldn't necessarily think of as a breakfast sandwich.
For sure. And the only reason that makes it a breakfast sandwich in my mind is there's an egg on it.
So it really is the egg.
I think so. And like that is a very unusual breakfast sandwich. It's from this Filipino restaurant out in Gaithersburg, Maryland. It's called Lapu Lapu. And well, it's sort of a riff on Philly cheesesteaks, but it also is using a type of style of meat popular in the Philippines. So you're getting this sort of cultural injection into a Philly cheesesteak into a breakfast sandwich. So it's this culture clash all presented in this small handheld bite. But again, I think what makes it a breakfast sandwich is just this fried egg on top.
Okay, so let's talk more about some of the sandwiches on this list. I'm sure every sandwich on the top 10 list is worthy. However, I want to give you some rapid fire questions about the sandwiches that you've encountered on this journey. So, what is the most affordable sandwich on your top 10 list?
Okay, so this is maybe a stumbling block for a number of people, that I don't think any of these is under $10. And some are as high as $15. Now, that's probably a bridge too far for a number of people, especially I would think if you had a family and you're trying to feed, 4 or 5 mouths, you're not going to probably pay $15 for a breakfast sandwich. So these are probably not everyday type of breakfast sandwiches. The one at Tanari, which is this Penn Quarter restaurant that serves breakfast sandwiches on the weekend, they have a very simple one that's kind of a riff on the famous New York bacon, egg, and cheese sandwich. They call it the pepperoni, egg, and cheese, or PEC. And it's you can get a 2-egg version for $8 and a 3 for $9. That's probably the most affordable item on this list. And for some, that may not even be affordable enough compared to what's a egg McMuffin cost you? $5?
It's actually this is my own pet thing, but I feel like if you're paying money for McDonald's, maybe $1 or more extra, you could get something that's actually good. That's my own pet thing. But yeah, I'm going to call that affordable.
Yeah. So $8 is not bad. It probably won't break your bank. But then again, I'm sympathetic to those. If you're taking a family there, that becomes real money. That's, $40 for breakfast.
But for a little treat, sure. Speaking of the bacon, egg, and cheese, like the New York classic, what was the best classic breakfast sandwich that you found?
So I'm not sure any of the ones that made my list, I would call them traditional. I think they're all sort of variations on cultural influences around the world. I think some of maybe on the honorable mention list would be more traditional. So I think the Hog Haven breakfast sandwich, it's sort of a traditional biscuit sandwich. And I don't know if you've ever been to the farmer's market where Hog Haven sells their sandwich.
Oh, I have. It deserves to be tasted.
It really does. And, they're pretty famous for doing this. And I don't want to slam it with faint praise, but I would say there's nothing necessarily innovative about the sandwich. It's just like a sage sausage patty, eggs, and on a biscuit. But what it separates it is all of these are from products from the farm or made there by people from the farm. So they're all fresh ingredients, fresh sausage, eggs from the farm. So, and it makes a difference when you're getting something that's not processed. You're not getting like a biscuit made, several weeks ago in a bakery that's been sitting on a shelf at Safeway. So it's a really good sandwich, just not quite good enough to cut that top 10 list.
That sandwich caused a big fight in my household. When a sandwich was bought and consumed and one was not bought and consumed for me, I'll just say it started a huge fight, a rift, if you will. So yeah, I totally agree with you that like there's something particularly, wild about it, but what it does very well.
Exactly. And it tells you that you don't need to be super innovative to have a good breakfast sandwich. You just need to have like good techniques, good ingredients, really fresh.
You don't need to use an oversized AI model for everything, just like you don't need to use an axe to slice a cake. Find out how smaller models can deliver the right results and help cut AI costs up to 90% at IBM.com. The AI built for business. IBM. Great solos don't make a symphony. In music or AI, get AI that's in tune with your business at IBM.com. The AI built for business. IBM.
Are you still quoting 30-year-old movies? Have you said cool beans in the past 90 days? Do you think Discover isn't widely accepted? If this sounds like you're stuck in the past. Discover is accepted at 99% of places that take credit cards nationwide. And every time you make a purchase with your card, you automatically earn cash back. Welcome to the now. It pays to Discover. Learn more at discover.com/credit card, based on the February 2024 Nielsen report.
Well, which sandwich was the most creative on the list?
I gotta think the one at Yellow, the Za'atar egg croissant. I don't know where you come up with the idea to coat a croissant in Za'atar, but it's a bold choice.
I mean, that sort of goes into my next question, which is like the list feels pretty international for what we think of as like a classic American thing. Do you think that's a special aspect of DC's food scene? And like, were you expecting the list to reflect that aspect of DC's food scene?
I did expect it. I used to write a review column for 13 years, and that was sort of what I focused on, was going to all these mom and pop, chef-owned, or even just immigrant-owned places around the district and the DMV, and putting a spotlight on them. So I knew what was out there, but I didn't even know the depth to which it was out there. So I knew that I would encounter a lot of creativity in the immigrant-owned restaurants. I don't know if I expected all of it to so dominate the top 10 list, but I think that reflects where my palate is these days.
You were talking about how you were pretty stressed putting this list out, which I can identify with. How do you feel about it now? Like a year later, it's been out. How are you feeling about it?
In preparation for your interview, I was looking back over the list, and I have to say, I enjoyed seeing the diversity of the options here. And it really did strike me that Washington, D.C. is a fairly unique city to eat in. And I'm not sure the rest of the country knows the great diversity of food that we have here. And what I really love about this list is it reflects that. And I'm happy about that. It really does make me happy.
You put out a call for people to hit you to spots that you might have missed. What did people say?
Oh, they always have their favorites. I would say the Hog Haven oversight, at least that's what readers dubbed it, was maybe the biggest complaint. There are a lot of fans of that Hog Haven breakfast sandwich. And I would say that was the one that got the biggest complaints, that it didn't make the cut. People like the places near them. And that makes sense. It's like most people don't go out of their way for coffee or a breakfast sandwich. They need something quick and convenient because you're often stressed, you're often busy in the morning, you don't have time to drive, 5 miles out of your way for a breakfast sandwich. So you're getting something close. So I think people often like the cracked eggery locations because I think there used to be at least 3. Now there may be just 2. But I would say they generally pick places that were close to them.
That makes a lot of sense. And I think breakfast sandwiches are sort of a quick comfort convenience and not necessarily the kind of food that people are thinking they might make a special trip for. That makes a lot of sense to me.
Yeah, and I think one of the complaints about the list is that, while these are handheld and they're sandwiches, they're not necessarily ones you want to eat in your car. The one from Yellow in particular, you'd get za'atar all over your car, the Lapu Lapu bistek cheesesteak kind of sandwich. That's going to spill all over your car. These are big, messy, two-fisted sandwiches that are really more meant to eat in a restaurant. And, that's not the way we often eat breakfast anymore. And I get that complaint. I understand that. So I guess my counter would be give yourself a treat every once in a while. Don't consider breakfast just something that you're consuming for calories and energy to get on with the rest of your day. It is a important part of the days. Maybe take a day once in a while just to savor that.
Tim, you don't need to tell me that I deserve a little treat. When I have a bad day, I'm like, I deserve a treat. When I have a good day, I'm like, I deserve a treat. Basically, it's just treats here.
No, I am so on board with that philosophy. If you can't give yourself a little treat after a stressful day, what's the point of treats?
Exactly. One of my last questions, was there anything about this process that surprised you?
The sheer volume of good sandwiches. When I do these kind of projects, I try to be completist. I want to hit every place. I want to give everyone a shot. I didn't get to every one of them. And that just tells you how many sandwiches people like out there. And that, I have to admit, that surprised me. I didn't think that I would have to go to and try nearly 100 breakfast sandwiches to get to the 10 that made the list.
Well, that's great news. I mean, we're eating well in DC. We have a smorgasbord of good breakfast sandwich options. Thank you for compiling them so succinctly for all of us.
The pleasure was all mine.
And today, we've actually got a few shout-outs from our CityCast DC neighbors. Carmen W. is shouting out Navito Coffee Shop for their incredible Venezuelan Jamaican fusion. I definitely got to check that out. And if you're in the market for a new suit, Josh P. says you got to check out Washingtonian-owned Threadbury. And Leah S. is officially inviting all CityCast listeners to join the uber-popular DC Movie Club to watch and discuss films. Casuals and cinephiles welcome. That is right up my alley. Thanks, Carmen, Josh, and Leah. Want to share your favorite local business or nonprofit with the pod? Become a CityCast DC neighbor and send us your shout-out, and we'll read it right here. Join today at membership.citycast.fm. That's membership.citycast.fm. That's all for today here on CityCast DC. If you enjoyed the show, share it with your friend that can't get enough breakfast sandwiches. You can rate the show, leave us a review, and subscribe to our morning newsletter. We'll be back tomorrow morning with even more news from around the city. Talk to you then.